Oh, welcome back to Semen Retention, Timelines, and Time Flies. This is what happens on Semen Retention. Time flies and timelines change. Now, I've gone and made myself, or I should say you guys, I've made a little diagram for you all to have a look at, which we'll get into very shortly. But I just wanted to add a little, personal story just to the start of this video. I have officially finished, after 11 years, I have finished up teaching, so I'll no longer be teaching kids or teenagers or adults, guitar and piano, and I've been doing that since I was about 18, 19 years old. So I feel very good right now to be closing this chapter. Now you might be thinking, well, what's that got to do with semen retention? What's that got to do with timelines? What's that got to do with time flying and all that kind of stuff? Well, here's the thing. This is an indication that I've just shifted into a new timeline. This is the post-teaching semen retention timeline. And what I've noticed is that after I clocked off from my first student today, I went straight into the car and I was just like giddy and I was just like, yeah, let's go. And then I only had one more student to teach. And then when I stepped into the car and drove off, I was like, wow, it's all over. It's just me and my energy now, and it feels good. It feels good to be in my own energy, to be my own teacher, to be my own student, to be God's student, to be a disciple of God, to be a devotee to this semen retention journey, and to shift to the highest timeline that I could possibly be in. So let's have a look at my... Okay, so it's pretty rough, but it'll do the trick, okay? Whoops. There you go. So, time flies on SR. Now, here I've got this little diagram kind of thing. It's kind of basic. There are two main sections of this diagram, okay? I'm going to just angle it down. Hopefully we can get everything in the shot. There we go. So first up, we have the highest self. And then at the bottom, we have the lowest self. It's pretty explanatory. The highest self is the best version of you, yeah? The lowest self is the lowest version of you, the worst version of you, pretty much you before you die, right? Majority of people live at a peak of about here. That's where the majority sit. And then it's got a bit of a range from about here to here. That's the range of majority of people out there in the world. Now, a retainer will start in this let's call it the red zone, the lower chakra kind of area, the root chakra. And they operate on a timeline. So I've written timeline above each one. Now this timeline is the lowest self timeline. So the lowest self is in a constant state of fear, is in a constant state of needing, is in a constant state of, hunger, is in a constant state of I want, I need, I have to have it, I am desperate, I'm like a rat, just scurrying around trying to find the next, piece of trash to jump on, That's what this lowest self is. I don't know if I've fully been this type of level before, but maybe I've had some pretty low versions of myself, but not in this lifetime have I ever felt, you know, like I'm not like going to be putting my hand into a dumpster bin and grabbing out like a half-eaten burger and then, you know, and then going to spend the little money that I've got to go find some drugs. I've never done that stuff. And I hope you haven't either. And if you have, that's okay. At least you're watching these videos because it's going to help you to grow. So this is the timeline of the root chakra. It's a desperate timeline. It's not a good place. It's an animalistic timeline. And actually, speaking of animalistic, is that the root chakra is the highest timeline for an animal. An animal has no way of accessing any of these higher timelines. And the reason why is that an animal does not use creative energy. It's not part of the sacral. An animal does not use its solar plexus energy. It can't assert itself, and it can't, you know, it can't dominate, you know, this matrix. Maybe a lion can try, a shark can try, a gorilla can try, but, you know, not against us humans. I mean, we've got guns and stuff. An animal doesn't have a heart chakra where it's going to feel empathy for things, hence why animals just eat other animals. Animals will eat meat. Animals will eat dead flesh. Animals will eat a newborn, you know. An animal doesn't have a way of expressing itself in a way of getting what it wants through the way of communicating ideas and, you know, expressing higher versions of itself through speech. Yes, an animal might have a mating call, but is an animal going to be expressing itself from truth? No, it's a habitual, instinctual call. An animal doesn't have a third eye where it goes into, you know, higher dimensions and sees imaginative kind of things and sees multiple perspectives all at once. No, an animal doesn't do that, and an animal doesn't access the crown. Right. Now that we've established the fact that we are not animals, let's continue this presentation. So now when you start your SR journey, let's just say for the sake of it, we're starting SR on the lowest timeline. Okay, so now SR, we're going to start rising up. When the, you know, when by default, let's just say 7 days. 7 days. I'm writing left-handed, by the way, and I'm a right hand. So 7 days, sacral chakra. I'm going to say 21 days to get to the solar plexus. And this is the seventh, you know, the sacral chakra is when after 7 days you feel that intense, you know, horniness, you feel that intense desire to create things, you start seeing those synchronicities. And then when you transcend that level, you go on to that solar plexus kind of territory where you start to maybe assert yourself. You start to, you know, you start to say, I need that. I am going to attain that. I remember this kind of energy, this solar plexus energy is what made me, when I was in a sporting grand final or like a major final. So the grand final just means the last game of the year between the two teams. And I remember having that solar plexus kind of will determine energy, and it made me, you know, absolutely obliterate the opposition. I won. We won the grand final, and I had my best game ever. Now, all of this section here, this root, sacral, and solar, that's the bottom territory, right? That's the best that we can get to as far as human power and, you know, all that kind of stuff goes. Fleshly desires go. When it comes to heart chakra, I'm going to put heart chakra as day 60 because I honestly think that after 60 days of semen retention, your heart really opens up and you start to feel things and resonate with things as well. And, you know, you start to jump on different timelines. So these timelines where you're talking about, you're asserting yourself. Maybe you get that job promotion and all that kind of stuff, and then you're making heaps of money and all that kind of stuff, and you're like driving your car and you're speeding down the highway, you know, and you're just like, oh, I feel so good on SR, and you know, my body gains are great, and you know, getting female attraction and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, cool, bro. But when you get to the heart chakra, that's when you start to realize that it's like, well, cool, like you get a bit of attraction from females, like, cool story, bro. Like, do you want a medal? Do you want to make a whole YouTube channel about how to attract females because you didn't bust a nut for 21 days? Do you want to like start an academy of how enlightened you are because you didn't release for 21 days? Well, okay, cool. Like you equivalently have the level of a 15-year-old as far as discipline goes. So then when we go to the heart chakra, we're actually learning how to be empathetic. We're learning how to be pulled by the nature of which we are resonant in our purest form. So the heart is a magnet, and when we open this heart chakra, we are allowing this internal magnetism to be guided by whatever God or the Creator has in store for us. So on this timeline, you might be saying to yourself, look, I do have that cool corporate job, and I do have this cool company car, and I, you know, have attracted these hot girls and all that sort of stuff, and you know, like I've got my body gains and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is when you get into that heart chakra region, you start to realize that it's like these are kind of these are limited, you know, these are things that are going to pass away. Like, you know, the fame, the wealth, the attractiveness of your spirit on a fleshly level is not going to be anything. Whereas on an energetic level, you've got the energetic kind of spiritual depth of a 15-year-old, whereas someone with the developed heart chakra might have the spiritual depth of a 1,754-year-old, because they've experienced many lifetimes and they have the wisdom. They're the master Yoda, you know. They're the one that actually has understood and can understand what people are going through. Next, 90 days. The throat chakra. The throat chakra is going to allow you to just say what you want. Don't care if people get offended. People are going to get offended regardless. You know, you say things with a wit. You say things with a clarity and with a knowing that you won't be thrown off center, because it's truth, it's honesty, it's real. You know, you're not trying to sell something and push people into making a decision about you. You just say how you are and what you think and how you feel, and that is what's going to align with this heart chakra and magnetize people or situations or opportunities into your life. So when I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to start singing more. And then I started singing more and more and more and more, and to no surprise, what's the main, what's the main component of your voice? Well, it's your throat. And when you are singing, you are amplifying your frequency. So as a musician, what I did is I started to connect the dots. I'm like, hang on a second. I'm singing these songs about depressive kind of things, and I'm amplifying that. And also I'm putting my own energetic signature into the universe via a released and recorded song with my voice on it, my own signature, onto some lyrics that are resonant with these lower frequencies. Think about it. So if I start, singing songs about crawling through the trash bin and, picking myself up with the G's and, getting my gun out and going shooting people and stuff like that because I'm desperate to make a little bit of, clout with the homies, bro. It's like, that's root chakra degeneracy. Whereas the sacral chakra would be me being like, oh yeah, and then I got that really, that hot girl came over and she was riding me all night long and all that kind of stuff. That's sacral chakra, degeneracy. And then you got the solar plexus kind of stuff where you're like, I'm going to be the best in the world. I am the most wealthy person. Yeah. It's like, cool. But what's that got to do with higher enlightened, frequencies, higher vibrations, higher multi-dimensional versions of yourself? Well, the solar plexus ain't the peak, that's for sure. So when you start to sing and express yourself through the heart and through the throat, you start to sing things that might be more loving, might be more joyous. Like, clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Like you're happy. That's the throat chakra, is the ability to speak and to sing your reality into being. Now, the third eye. This is where I feel like I'm at. I'm just going to put a random number here. Let's just say, I'm just going to put a random number, 15 months, because that was my peak. That was my peak on semen retention, was 15 months. So I'm on around day 40 at the moment, in case you're wondering, after breaking my 15-month streak. So I'm on day 40. So 15 months, third eye, timeline. What's the timeline of a third eye opening? This is when you start to see the messaging and you start to see all the symbolism in every single moment of your life. It doesn't matter if you're, ironing your t-shirt, or if you're wiping your ass on the toilet, or if you're changing your guitar strings, or if you're going for a run, or if you're talking to your boss on the phone, or if you're going for a drive. Every single moment of your life is going to be open for interpretation through the awakened third eye. Now, the thing about this timeline is that you might be, let's put an example, okay? So let's say you want to make a point about your student, how he needs to sing more in time with the drums. It's like, okay, hear the drum beat, it's going... And you've got that thought in your mind, you're like, I need to tell the student to align with the drumming. And then the student sings a lyric that says drumming at the same time, which is exactly what happened to me today when I was teaching my final student. And then I realized that was a synchronicity, that was a coincidence. Go back to yesterday's video where I talk about coincidences. Just to really summarize it real quick, coincidences is 2 points. Here's that direction. Let's call that A, and then we got B, and a coincident is the meeting point in the middle. That's what it is, because 2 points, two, and then we got the incident in the middle, and that is also known as the synchronicity. So, what happens with the third eye being opened is that you're going to get these messages, and it fast tracks your ascension. It fast tracks your alignment to the higher self. And then when you're living in the higher self, your crown is open. You are who you are. You are being. You are being. You are being. That's it. You are being. There's nothing more to it. There is more to it, but I'm not going to overcomplicate it. So that's the third eye. The third eye is like this input processor that's telling you, okay, go mention that point now. Here's a cue. It could be a car drives past you with a number plate that says retain on it. It could be, you know, it's you're driving back home and you're thinking about logging on the hub, and then a car drives past with the number plate SR 000, and you're like, ooh, it's interesting. These are the coincidences and the synchronicities, and these are these moments in our lives that we need to tune in to. These are the pulling frequencies, the pulling magnetisms of whoever this architect is that's created this realm. This is their way of pulling us into this higher self. So, why does time fly on SR? Well, because the more you retain this energy and it rises up your spine, this is also right here. Gentlemen, this is also your spine. So here's your spine, and then it rises up. And then basically, you're going to feel all the benefits of vitality, strength, and all that kind of stuff. And once you pass through the physical plane, when you get all that endurance, that stamina, that strength, that testosterone build up, and you're like, yes, let's freaking go, bro. You know, then it passes into your heart, and then that's when you get to the point of like, you know what, I actually do feel kind of bad eating this dead animal. Like, I do feel kind of bad about that, and I kind of do feel bad about like just getting with this woman because, you know, she's on some dating app or something like that, and, you know, I wanna have some fun. She said she wants to have some fun. It's just like, yeah, you know what? That's not really my vibe. That's the heart frequency. That's the heart chakra where you're emotionally aware. And then you get into the throat chakra where it's just like, you know what? Like, I actually am creative. I've got things to express myself and all that kind of stuff. And then suddenly, before you know it, it's rising faster and faster and faster through you, that you get to a point that you're just like, you know what? 15 months ago, I was nowhere near this. 1 year ago, I was nowhere near this. 2 months ago, I wasn't even thinking like this. Every single day, you are ascending at a rapid rate. It becomes exponential on semen retention. Every single day, you are shooting towards the higher self, like a blazing star. You need to accept the fact that things are going to change very quickly. That is part of the Kundalini awakening process. So, that, gentlemen, is why time flies and timelines on SR. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Semen Retention. I promise next time I'll probably have a bit more of a clearer, you know, setup where you can see the whiteboard a bit clearer, but it doesn't matter. This doesn't have to be a visual presentation. It can also be, you know, just listen to. Thanks to everyone that commented on my previous videos. Good to see some old, you know, subscribers in the comments. Also the new subscribers as well. Welcome to the channel. Hope you enjoy. Stick around, ask any questions, let me know how you're going, and let me know what you think of this whole theory about timelines and time flying on SR. Catch you later.